Hello, welcome to the Citrus Garden. My name is Christina. This is a reading for Libra moons, or if you just have Libra anywhere in your chart and you're wanting to work with or balance feminine energies within yourself, then this reading is for you. I've already pulled your cards, Libra, and we have quite an interesting message for you today. We're going to start with the bottom of the deck for the overall energy. So you have these lovely cards. We have the Otter, the Hummingbird. I feel like you're the hummingbird, in this case, Libra. The Otter is sort of representing perhaps like a soulmate of some sort, or like somebody that you care about very deeply, someone who's close to you, who's perhaps like at a distance. And it's like what's in between you is this oyster energy, which is so interesting. The oyster's been coming up so much recently as being like somebody who is perhaps going through a little bit of a difficult time is kind of how it's coming through today. But it's like they are about to sort of gain the pearl is kind of how this is coming through. They're about to gain the pearl of wisdom or understanding of some sort, but it's like in the meantime, it's like it's almost like they're at the peak of their discomfort is kind of how this is feeling, right? Like, because if you think about the pearl, it is a source of irritation for the oyster, even though at the end of the process, once the pearl is sort of harvested, there is value in that. But it kind of feels like right now, there's somebody in your environment who is in almost like the peak of their discomfort. And for some reason, that their energy or like their situation, what they're going through, is somehow keeping you and your loved one perhaps at a distance is kind of how this is feeling. And it's kind of like you're both waiting for this one to gain the understanding and like open up, right? Like you're waiting for the pearl to be harvested by them is kind of how this is coming through. Because you have this combination of cards was also just emphasizing it. This Three of Swords moment. Again, I don't feel like it's you necessarily, but because it's like they're in your environment or they're somehow connected to you, that because they're going through this, it's impacting your happiness or your ability to sort of like you it's like you can't ignore this one, right? Like it's like they're there. You have to, their energy is surrounding you. The thing about this Three of Swords is that I always see these blades as sort of like hovering over, like it's not quite the heartbreak energy yet, but it's like they're feeling like they're at like the end of the, like it's like the end, right? Like, you know, the point in the story, if you watch like action movies and stuff, when it's like they're being threatened by the enemy forces and it's like they see no way out is kind of how I'm seeing this Three of Swords. But it's like you're here with all this gorgeous energy. The Empress, the Sun, and the Ten of Cups, which is talking about like you and your loved ones, right? Your family, the closest ones to you. But there's somebody, I don't necessarily, like it could be related to this oyster, especially because they're like at a distance. I see this one as sort of like you're having to, like it could be that the otter is going through some sort of painful experience or something like that. And it's kind of like, I feel like you, Libra, are trying to find a way to help this one. I feel like there is that aspect there, which we will get into in the reading. This is just the overall energy. And then finally we have this water creation and the wildness electricity, which of course is all of this, like water and electricity, not a good match, right? It's kind of like, I feel like you, Libra, are almost like holding back some aspect of your like electricity. I'm just seeing this as like a lot of energy or momentum to move forward, because this one is going through the process of draining or clearing their waters, right? I see this card as like the water level is dropping, and in that process it reveals some sort of perhaps like an ancient structure is sometimes how I see this, right? It's like something that was left behind by an ancient civilization, something like that. But it's kind of like for you, Libra, almost like holding back on some aspect of your happiness is kind of how this is feeling like, right? All of your energy is so gorgeous and beautiful, and all of this like hummingbird happiness But it's like, if you were to bring that into this environment, it would not end well, basically, is kind of how this is feeling. So we're going to get into what's your current energy. And you have these gorgeous, lovely cards. The Sunlight card and the Beginnings East, which is all of this thing that I was just talking about, where it's like, you are at this point at the Sunlight, which has been coming through this energy of like the firefall, if you know what that is, at Yosemite National Park. There's this rare circumstances of events where people go to sort of gather witness, where like the sunlight hits a waterfall at a particular angle that makes it look like it's a firefall. It's a waterfall made of fire. So it's just talking about like a rare set of circumstances or events that is coming together, and it's like you're witnessing this or experiencing it in some way, and it's giving you insight. Because if you look at this, it's like you're getting some sort of, perhaps like a download or an insight, or just like a piece of information that is allowing you to almost like start again, or start something, right? It's like this to me is just talking about inspiration or creativity. It's like whatever it is that you're witnessing or experiencing is allowing you to like receive inspiration to create the next thing, basically, is how this is coming through. And it's so incredible because it's like this Purity Ice card. So I'm actually seeing this as being you or like an aspect of yourself, but it could also be related to this other person, because there's two messages here. So it could be that there's one aspect where it's a whatever this piece of information that you're getting, it's almost like cracking this ice structure, and it's awakening, I want to say, some aspect within yourself, perhaps, that has been feeling like stagnant or like just not moving. I see this as like waking a giant. I've gotten that message in a different deck before, but for you, especially because of coming through the white horse, in Lord of the Rings, that white horse symbolizes freedom, right? The freedom to move. This horse doesn't serve a master. It's kind of like the wildness, right? It's like some aspect of your wildness is now being freed because of this experience or set of circumstances that is very rare. It's like perhaps this one or this aspect of yourself is almost waiting for this download to come in or to unfold in order for you to move towards the next step. And then what you have here next is the movement speed, which is talking about like fast movement forward. So there may also be a connection with the Gemini reading, because as I was pulling your cards, I kept thinking about Gemini. So I'm going to post the Gemini reading that I did yesterday at the end of this video if you're interested in watching that. But basically, it's just like moving from this place of stagnation into sudden movement. The second message that was coming through with this Purity Ice card is also, because if you notice here is there like the numbers, right? This is 3, this is 33. Is that with whoever this one is, the 3 of Swords in your environment, whatever download or information that you're getting, it may also be somehow impacting this one because they're connected to you in some way, right? So it's kind of like you're getting some sort of information or download or understanding, and it's waking up some aspect of you, but I feel like at the same time, it's also triggering some sort of awakening or understanding within them. And it might not be something like it's almost like this is like almost feeling like collateral damage in some way, right? It's I'm not saying that you at all caused this, but it's kind of like, because the two of you are connected, this aspect of you that's awakened or been sort of revealed in some way is happening for them. But I just feel like for them, it's not this movement, because this is always talking to me like an ecstatic sort of like forward movement, right? It's fun, it's playful, it's just joyful. It's all of this sort of hummingbird heart energy where it's like you're absolutely moving forward because this ice is broken. But for them, it's causing almost like the opposite reaction is kind of how it's feeling. And I will get into that, but I want to just keep going through some of the other cards because I feel like it explains a little bit more about what this could be. So for the animals, you have the vulture and the owl. And so the vulture I absolutely love because it's coming through with this devil energy. And so I feel like part of what this experience is, whatever this like firefall energy is that it's showing you some aspect of this, the vulture and the devil, which is talking about some sort of perhaps like pattern of behavior within yourself. It doesn't have to be, though. It could just be in your environment. There's some sort of toxin in the environment, which is how I see the vulture. Sorry, I had to pause because there was a distraction. So, Libra, you're experiencing some sort of miraculous event that's shining light on some sort of toxin in your environment, right? The devil's just representing some sort of energy that is keeping you from moving forward, right? So whatever this purity ice energy is, it's like this event or understanding that you're receiving is allowing you to sort of break or clear this devil energy toxin that's in your environment somehow. And what I love about this combination of cards, because you have the beginning East, the magician, and the owl. So the owl always talks to me about like a blessing or a gift, like receiving some sort of gift from perhaps like the universe or from another person, perhaps. It could even just be like the gift of wisdom, of understanding. But I feel like it's allowing you to put something into action with the magician, right? It's allowing you to create something, or it's giving you like the solution to your problem somehow is kind of how this is feeling. Because what you have next is the Tower card, which is one of my favorite Tower cards just because it's very clearly like some sort of building that's no longer in use, right? It's almost like it's a scheduled demolition is kind of how this is feeling. So that you clear the space to create something new, right? It's like this building was not used. It was not usable in some way. And so just clearing that debris out. But again, because it's coming through with this like purity ice, right? You're eliminating some aspect, like perhaps a structure or behavior of yours, perhaps, that's like getting rid of an energy that's no longer serving you. And for you, it's giving all this beautiful energy. You have the Three of Wands and the frog. So this frog talks to me about like healing and cleansing, first of all, always that, but it's more so just coming through this energy of like all the ice is melted, right? It's like because this could be sort of seen as destructive, but because you have all this like sunlight energy, it's almost like instead of the ice crumbling, it's more so the ice is melting. It's kind of how I'm seeing this, which is a bit of a softer energy. It's not at all destructive is how it's coming through for you. It feels just like, well, because you now this story of like, I don't know if this is true or not, and I wouldn't recommend anybody trying this, but there are some frogs that when you freeze them, they actually survive, right? It's like they go into like almost like a hibernated state, and then when you defrost them, they're perfectly normal. Of course, that's not true for humans, but some species of frogs are able to do this. So I'm seeing this as being like you being revived or freed from the ice, whatever that signifies for you. And it's giving you like sort of this energy, right? Like the desire to create or move in a new direction or something like that, especially because it's coming out with the sea serpent, which is talking to me about, well, first of all, like, it's almost like you're reaching the end of a cycle, but of course, simultaneously, that means that you're starting a new cycle. So there's all of that energy in here, but it's coming out with the World as well, which I love because this card is obviously completion, right? Some sort of completion point. I see this as being sort of like somebody who, like, almost like a war veteran of some sort. It doesn't have to be like that kind of thing. Like just someone with wisdom, somebody who's gone through perhaps a difficult time, but has come out of it and has actually a lot of stories to tell. And I was just noticing the book here, like it looks like a children's storybook. So it's almost like you, Libra, are at this place where almost like a very peaceful state where it's like you have wisdom to give because you've sort of gone through this defrosting cycle, and have like joy and happiness and wanting to share that with others through perhaps stories, or just like, if it's not stories, right? If it's not like a book of some sort or anything like that, it's just representing like your story, whatever it is. Like you can share your story or what you went through because you've reached the end. Okay. And I feel like this energy as well with the world, it's like there may be others like sort of gathering around you is kind of how this is feeling. And it may be bringing this one up. Whoever is going through this difficult time, it's like they're coming towards you because you're sort of like this, like the storyteller. Because you have here the 3 of Cups next, right? So it could be like friends and family. I see this as being sort of just like a reunion, like catching up after a long time, that kind of thing. It's like you are sort of attracting this energy with the Chariot as well. It's like they're absolutely coming towards you. And it could be friends, right? It could be like somebody who you haven't seen in a long time or something like that. But there is this energy here, which is interesting. Like perhaps one of the people who's coming up is this Fury Bushfires card, which is interesting. I know, because I normally see this as like somebody who almost like focuses too much on fear or pain or like painful experiences, right? It's like they're always bringing up some sort of negative experience that they had in the past. It may be something that you already know about them. It's like every time you see them, they always bring up some sort of past painful memory. And it's kind of like as soon as you encounter it, Libra, it's just like in your face, and it's almost like stopping your momentum, right? Because this is very much a 3 of Swords energy. Again, it's kind of like, it's like the knives are not in the heart yet, or it may be because of this past event. It's like they haven't sort of, they're in almost like an energy of like perpetual threat is kind of how it feels. Like they're always seeing, like their particular sort of focus is perhaps on a specific memory or past event that caused them a lot of pain. And because of that, it's like they're almost like stuck or frozen here again, right? Because I feel like with it, because they're coming through with the dragonfly, which to me talks about today, it's a very significant soul connection. And what happens in these sort of connections is that there's always sort of a similarity between you. And I feel like that's what this is, because I feel like to some extent for you, Libra, I almost said Gemini again. I feel like that there is a similar theme going through there. So you can watch that one at the end of this. But whatever this energy was for you, this energy of like stagnation or almost like locking away, yours is coming through with the ice, where it's kind of like you locked it away, right? It was how perhaps you dealt with some sort of painful experience was just to sort of like not touch it, right? To just sort of let it, put it in the freezer, right? Like, you know, people put credit cards in the freezer so that they don't use it. It's kind of like that. Like perhaps you just put some aspect of your pain perhaps, or painful memory or something like that in the freezer so that you wouldn't think about it or whatever it is. But now it's like that part's defrosting and you can kind of get back to normal business. But for them, how they perhaps perceived an experience, it's almost like they never removed these swords, right? It's like, and because they're in this constant state of threat, it's made them like angry, or it's like all of this fire, right? So it's kind of just like there were 2 different ways where perhaps it's like a shared kind of event, like some sort of, I don't know, some sort of like shared loss or something like that, where it's like you locked it away and then they almost like drew more attention to it. And it's like every time you see them, they bring it up in this like very sort of perhaps confrontational way. And it's coming through with the 8 of Swords, which is all of that energy of like not removing the blindfold, right? Not removing or dealing with perhaps this sort of painful loss. And I feel like perhaps for you, Libra, you're kind of seeking a way to like trying to help them like drain this water, because I feel like for you, it's like you've now understood or realized with this, the East Beginnings card, how to free yourself from this energy, right? It's like all this sort of water's draining for you. And I feel like for them, it's like you're wanting to help them perhaps do the same thing. But it's almost like because they're doing it in their defense mechanism, let's say, is kind of like opposite to how you would deal with the situation, there may be sort of conflict is kind of how this is feeling, right? With the water and the electricity, it's like you're wanting to share what you know, but they may be reacting out of anger, or if it's not anger, more so it could just be like sharp words or something like that, because their method of dealing with that situation is a different method than you would deal with it, right? Okay, but what's good about what you have next is that there is sort of hope, is basically what I'm seeing with this, is the Magic Alchemy card. So how I'm seeing this is kind of like if somebody's going through a tough time, for example, and like you go over to their house and then they'll immediately sort of point out everything about their house that they are annoyed with, right? It's like something's broken. Oh, like they just complain about all the things in their house that are not working, right? Oh, like my sink's broken, blah, blah, blah. There's like a leak in the ceiling, that kind of thing. And so what they're bringing up, what they're showing to you, what they're bringing to you with this Magic Alchemy card is exactly the thing that you should address, right? It's kind of like for you, Libra, how you would deal with the situation is that you would prefer to like lock it away and not let anybody sort of access whatever that hurt or pain is. For them, it's like they're bringing it right to your face. It's a completely opposite sort of way to deal with the situation. But I feel like that's what the magic is kind of how it's coming through. It's like if you're wanting to help this one, it's like deal with whatever it is that they're bringing to you. Because you have here the rabbit card, which is coming through with the magic as well. Because this rabbit card comes through with this idea of like almost like drawing attention to the fear or the worry. It's like they may this fury bushfire, it doesn't have to be anger, right? It could be any sort of energy that's stemming from fear or worry. It's kind of like perhaps one of their defense mechanisms of some sort. It's kind of like drawing attention to their hurts before anyone else can notice it. Is kind of how this is, like purposely drawing attention to the thing that is bothering them so that no one else can sort of put judgment on them, is kind of how it's feeling. Because you have here this 10 of Pentacles card, which I always sort of see as being like gossiping ants, right? It's like they're in your community or in your environment, but it's like they have things to say, right? They're always like pointing out like pointing out things like that are almost like not criticism, but you know what I'm talking about. Like the ants that are always like in your business, right? But they're in your community. It's like you can't. And I feel like perhaps that reaction is somehow interfering with your happiness, is what I'm going to say, Libra, right? Like it's like their energy is not a match to this, right? It's kind of like, what, like, they're kind of just like, what is Libra got going on here, right? It's like because your energy is so gorgeous. Look at all this beautiful energy, and it's like these ones are coming into with their little postcard of past hurts that they've encountered, because perhaps you have something to give to them. Perhaps that's how they're seeing it. What you have next, though, it's like, if you want to sort of get past this energy, which you absolutely will with the Six of Swords, it's like sort of moving into more of a calmer waters place. You have this to make equal, the equator, which is talking to me about like, almost like they're granting you passage, but it's kind of like you have to like discover what the magic or the riddle or the key to this thing is, because it was coming through today kind of almost like a Sphinx energy, right? Like this to make equals coming out the Scorpion, right? So it could be, it's all of this energy of like reacting in order to protect oneself. So whatever it is that they're bringing to you is exactly the sort of thing that you need to dismantle, is kind of how it's coming through, like a Sphinx giving you a riddle, but the answer is right in your face. They're telling you exactly what it is that the answer to the riddle is. And once you sort of get the answer, like you speak the magic word or whatever it is, they grant you passage to whatever it is that you're wanting to go towards. It's like, this is the key to opening up whatever this lobster is. Whatever this oyster is. I'm saying lobster because the Scorpion has the same sort of shell as a lobster. But anyways, okay. And then it's also coming out with the hyena, which is more so of this energy, right? The light and the dark. The hyena talks about like somebody who uses some sort of defense mechanism to hide something on the inside, right? And it's coming through with protection. So it's like they're absolutely, I feel like it's like they're surrounding you, or they're coming to you because you have reached this point where you have like cleared that energy within yourself, right? With the world, you've cleared some aspect or completed some sort of cycle. It's emphasizing that whatever cycle that you've just completed, or understanding or knowledge, they have that exact same problem, but how they're dealing with it is an exact opposite to how you would deal with it, is basically how it's coming through. But it's like in sort of helping them unlock this, because it's like they're almost like drawing attention to whatever this wounding is. I'm going to call it a wounding. They're drawing attention to whatever this wounding is by almost making themselves more prickly in that area, right? It's an active sort of, it's an active disguise, almost like bringing more attention to it by a show of like a hyena's laughter is kind of how this is coming through. Anyways, Libra, I feel like that's up to you. Like, I feel like you'll know, especially it's gonna be something like that really just sort of gets your hackles up, right? Like a hyena's laugh. But that laugh is exactly the thing that they're protecting, right? That's showing you exactly what it is that they're trying to protect. Anyways, so once you sort of figure out what that riddle is, you have the Two of Cups and then the Lovers, which is a gorgeous energy, because I feel like this is talking about like whatever this oyster thing is, it is going to open up, and then you and whoever this otter is can come together, right? There's also this energy, I feel like, as well, with the to make equals, that it's kind of like almost like realizing that your enemy is your friend is kind of how this is coming through. There may be sort of this moment of like you and this person who may be causing you pain in some way actually sort of meeting on the same level, right? And having a conversation about it or something like that, or becoming friends or whatever it is. And then the Lovers I'm seeing as that that's sort of what brings you and your other one, who doesn't seem to be in this situation at all, bringing you and your other one together. And then finally, just to end this section of the reading, you have the Spider and the Page of Pentacles, which is gorgeous energy. This Spider is coming through with almost like the Charlotte's Web energy, where Charlotte is sort of this outside force. I feel like it's actually related to this protection card, like the person who's causing you sort of distress because they're bringing sort of this energy up, right? The Sphinx energy. But it's like once you figure out what that riddle is, it's almost like they are the ones to unlock the next part of your journey, because Charlotte's Web, like she would like write a key word in her web in order for like the other animals to like focus on, right? Like a message of hope, basically. And I'm seeing this as like, that's the center. It's kind of like, what if you are willing to almost like befriend this one who's causing you sort of distress, it will allow you, or like, it's almost like they're the ones who's going to bring you together with the otter energy, right? It's like that, because right now it feels like they're in between you, right? They're in between you, but once this oyster, I almost said lobster again, once this oyster is opened and the pearl is received, there's nothing sort of standing in between you and your person. It's kind of how this is feeling. Okay, Libra, I hope that made sense for somebody. I'm gonna leave the message here. I'm gonna move to the extended. We're gonna talk about where's an area of growth for you, even though we kind of sort of covered that, and also what's ahead. So if you're interested in that, the link is in the description box below. I do have other videos if you're interested in checking those out. The Gemini reading might be of interest to you. Thank you so much for sharing your energy with me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.